Booker, are you afraid of God?
No. But I'm afraid of you.
What's going on, guys? It's Jake Camaro here with another episode of Initial Thoughts, and today we're going to be taking a look at Bioshock Infinite, which was released on March 26th, 2013 for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC, and there's actually a macOS 10 version coming this summer. It was developed by Irrational Games, 2K Marin, Human Head Studios, and Darkside Game Studios, and published by 2K Games. So before I get into this episode, I just like to give you a little update about YouTube and stuff like that. School for me is officially over. It ended this past Friday, so no more studying for finals or any excuse like that. So I'm going to definitely be able to deliver you guys a lot more content because I know I've been lacking lately in the last few months. So pretty much I've got the summer almost completely free besides some things I have going, but I'm not really going on vacation for any long period of time. So I'm hoping to put out videos as fast as I possibly can, especially with E3 starting tomorrow. I'm really excited for that. Can't wait to watch the Microsoft and Sony press conferences, learn more about the next-gen consoles. But anyway, that's pretty much it for the update stuff. I'll have a lot more content for you guys coming soon. My Black Ops 2 Uprising videos, I held them back because of Bioshock Infinite, which I actually just got a couple days ago if you guys saw my unboxing. So I've got the gameplay for that. I've got it all set up. All I gotta do is record the commentary for the zombies and multiplayer. I'm going to be doing it in 2 parts like I did for Revolution. So expect that in the next couple of days. But let's just get into Bioshock Infinite. So I've actually not even beaten the campaign because I wanted to get this out to you guys pretty quickly so I could just start releasing all of my initial thoughts and Flashback Fridays and stuff like that. So I have not beaten the campaign, so I can't really spoil it for you. I know that a lot of Bioshock games have a big twist at the end. I've not spoiled myself, and I'm just going to wait and see what it is. I think I'm getting pretty close to beating the game, judging on like where I am with the whole story arc and such, but I'm going to try to keep this very spoiler-free, because I know that a lot of people, although Bioshock Infinite and or the Bioshock games in general are great first-person shooters, they're also, the fans are very concerned about the story, and the story plays a huge part, much more than in games like Call of Duty or Battlefield. So let's just get this episode started out with the graphics, like I usually do. And I know that a lot of people are talking, about the new consoles, Xbox One and PlayStation 4, and just the better performance that they can get. But this game really shows, on the Xbox 360 at least, just how powerful the current systems are if the developers use their tools right. Now, I know if you guys have seen PC gameplay of this, of Bioshock Infinite, it looks amazing. I've seen it on YouTube, and it just looks really, really good. I wish my my Mac was good enough to run it at ultra settings. I think I could probably get high at 1080p. But anyway, so it looks really good on that, but on the Xbox 360, it looks really good. Now, the textures, of course, when you get really close to them, as is with any game on the Xbox 360, they get really blocky and such. But just looking at objects a little further away from the screen, as well as the lighting, it just looks really good. Like the first, I don't know, about 20 minutes of this game really shows off what Bioshock Infinite is able to do in terms of lighting and performance. It is an absolutely gorgeous game, and that's why this episode is going to run a little longer, because you're just going to be able to see that entire first segment, and I was just completely blown away. And it just goes to show you how these consoles, even though they came out in 2005 and 2006, they still have quite a bit of life left in them. So, graphics, if you're getting Bioshock Infinite for the graphics, one of the better looking Xbox 360 games I've seen. Now, obviously it's not going to be able to hold the ranks with Crysis 3 and Halo 4 and games like that, but as the game it is, as like the as a game that's not really known completely for its graphics, and isn't a game built specifically for the Xbox 360 like a first-party game like Halo 4 is, it is a really, really good-looking game, and I was completely impressed. Every time I turned around, there was just some new effect and stuff. The particle effects are great, which you'll definitely see a little bit later. And just the entire layout of the game, I was just really impressed. And although games for me, of course, are about the gameplay, this completely blew me away. with all the graphics, and I was really excited to keep playing the game just to see what the engine could do next. So the graphics in Bioshock Infinite are completely great. Um, 2013 game, obviously, it's going to be remembered for one of the last games available for the Xbox 360 without them being available for the next-gen consoles. And I think this game really shows how if you put the tools to an Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3 games right, if you develop right, if you make your engine very power efficient, you can make those systems look really good. So let's just get into the story a little bit. So I've actually, just a confession right here, I have not played the original Bioshock, nor have I played Bioshock 2, and I heard that Bioshock, the original, was kind of a game changer in the FPS genre, and I'm hoping to be able to sometime get to it this summer. Obviously, I'm just going to try to wrap up my Xbox 360 collection with the new systems coming out this fall. So I really want to look at some of the classic games that I've missed out on. But anyway, so I came into the story completely a noob. I didn't really understand any of it. But it doesn't follow the same story arc as Bioshock 1 or 2. So I think as someone, if you're coming into the series without playing the first two, I think that this would be a great one to start out with, because although you can understand a little bit more playing the original two, like the whole setup and gameplay and just how the game works in general, I think in terms of story, you're playing as a brand new character in a brand new world, and I think I was really able to completely understand the story. Now, the story itself is very complicated. The dialogue that both your character named Booker DeWitt and the dialogue that your partner for most of the game, Elizabeth, say, you really need to listen to them, because they say stuff that is really important to the story. And I was actually playing with some of my friends, and I just had to say, you know what, I like talking to you guys and stuff, but I really want to get the most out of this game. So I just left the party and I just played the game on my own. And I really think it's just a game that only you need to play with your headset on or your home theater setup or whatever you use to game. And just you really need to get into the story, because if you understand it correctly, it's a really good story. And from what I've played so far, I've been completely blown away. There's just a lot of creativity. So just a little bit of background. It's set in 1912. If you didn't see the title plate at the beginning of this video, but you play as a character named Booker DeWitt, and he's kind of like a hired gun. He's ex-military, and he's kind of like a private contractor now. People hire him to carry out and kill targets, and pretty much from what you figure out at the beginning of the game, he's in debt with some bad people, and he needs to find this girl named Elizabeth to and hand her over to them, and then they'll leave him alone and stuff. So he goes to this lighthouse, as you see, and he gets on that chair, and then he gets into the rocket and flies off to the city named Columbia, which is pretty much a American type city in the clouds, and it's a floating city, which is really creative, because the whole premise of it, there's you'll see in a second, but there's buildings that float into space and stuff, and it's just really cool, and it's run by a guy named Comstock. I think Comstock. Yeah, Comstock. And sorry, the names are a little complicated since it's early 20th century, but he's pretty much seen as a prophet and a god. So they're not. Although there's a lot of religious references, this is a very religious type game. Although it doesn't really make any reference to religions in our time. There's just a lot of churches and people praying and stuff. Right here, the priest is talking about just random stuff, and you have to get baptized to enter the city. So it plays on that, and then there's a bunch of pictures of Comstock everywhere, which you'll see, and people call him as the prophet. And you are pretty much known to the people, which not currently, which you're seeing on screen, but you will see later in this gameplay. You're referred to as the false shepherd, the person who will pull Columbia's people astray and cause destruction and Judgment Day or stuff like that. So although in the beginning people don't really understand you, who you are and stuff, in a few minutes everybody comes against you and everybody just goes crazy whenever they see you. and stuff. Like right here, this is pretty funny, and there are some like comedic parts. Like right here, he pretty much like tries to drown you as he's baptizing you, and although this game does tackle a lot of serious, like very heavy issues, which I'll get to in a second, there's a lot of comedic relief, which is really great, like what Elizabeth says and what you say. And yes, your character actually does talk quite a bit. It's not like Master Chief or your character in Skyrim or any of those games where you're kind of off in your own world and your character is pretty much supposed to be you. Your character doesn't say that much, and it's just up to the depiction of yourself rather as putting yourself in someone else's boots. But in Bioshock Infinite, you play as Booker DeWitt. Like you're not really playing as yourself. So he talks a lot. He thinks to himself sometimes, and he gives his interpretation of certain scenes that are going on, his opinion about them. So it come into the game knowing that it's not going to be an experience where you're going to be the person in the world. It's just going to be you controlling someone in that world. Much like third-person shooters, like I was playing Sleeping Dogs, and I'm not playing as myself, I'm playing as Wei Shen. You see him on the screen, he talks, he reacts to his environment, and think of like that in like a first-person way in Bioshock Infinite. So Booker DeWitt, although he's not like... Elizabeth is really the star of the single-player story, but you do get to learn a lot about Booker and his background and how he really ties into the story, although you're really just seeing his hands. But in terms of a character, Booker DeWitt, although he's not super easy to relate to, you really start to develop a relationship with him as the story progresses. But right here, I just want to take a break from the story stuff and just check out the scale of the scene. This is probably one of my favorite scenes of the game. You just walk out of that church area where you came in, and you see just like the scale of the environment and the creativity that the game uses, the developers used for the game. So there's lots of blimps flying around, and there's actually a skyline, which you kind of see in the upper left-hand corner, and those like crates are coming up. And although unfortunately I didn't get any gameplay of that right in like the segment I was able to record, I recorded about 37 minutes of gameplay. But I was only able to put in 25 because I can only blabber on for so long before I start to run out of things to say, which you guys have probably seen in some initial thoughts episodes. But anyway, you have this like grappling hook, which is also the way you melee people, which you'll acquire pretty early on, which you'll see in a second. But you press A and you jump up onto the skyline, and you can like just shoot around and jump onto enemies, and you get insta-kills against like normal enemies. There's different like enemy types, which we'll get to in a second. And then it's a really cool way to like travel around really fast. And although you don't get to use it a ton, at least from what I've seen, the areas that you get to use it are a lot of fun, and it really ties in to defeating your enemies. You don't have to use it except in very specific circumstances, but really the grappling line is just a really creative part of the game, and I definitely enjoyed my time using the grappling line. But behind like what you see right here, which is just the very innocent types, civilians walking around, just a very peaceful city, there's a lot of heavy issues that are tackled in this game, like racism and social classes and tensions between different groups of people, and you really see that as the game moves on, and it's not... You really understand a lot of the things that are going on in Colombia. You get to see like a civil war ensue with the African Americans and the Irish people revolting up against the white supremacists, and you'll see in a second just a lot of discontent towards the different races, which is something that was very prevalent in this time, in modern day, in normal America, not just in Colombia. And you can just see that entire picture unfold, and as the game moves on, just seeing how that works out. I'm not going to spoil anything, because I'm sure you're going to want to find out on your own. But don't go into this game thinking it's just going to be some shoot 'em up game with one objective. You're going to have to make some choices in this game. Not a ton, but you feel like your choices are quite important to the whole story itself, and it just shows that one person's decision can really start a revolution. But it's not really like a free roaming game, It's not like Skyrim or anything, or Sleeping Dogs or Grand Theft Auto or anything like that. it's more of a very linear game, but the developers are able to flesh out the world so it looks there's not one certain like just way to go. Although you're going to want to follow down about the same path, you don't want to like skip a lot of things. Now I wanted to get through a lot of stuff in this gameplay, so it's not like me just like 20 minutes of me walking around. But you kind of see it here. There's lots of these like games you can play with objectives. You get money for it, and it's just really cool, and it's really creative how the team was able to just develop this world that you really feel like it's very alive and real. And the stuff that you're seeing isn't just the things that are going on. As you're approaching like stands, you hear people talking about stuff going on that are important to the story, and just people like chatting about just random things, sometimes important, sometimes not, but it really gives you a sense of place in the city of Columbia, and I really like that. I really enjoyed having a game where it felt like the story didn't just include me. I wasn't the main character, it was the environment, and it was also Elizabeth, and Elizabeth is a really, really cool character. And she, like I said, she's really the star of the show. Although you do play as Booker DeWitt, you're going to find out a lot more about Elizabeth's past than yours yourself. But Elizabeth is pretty much the daughter of Comstock, and you would think she'd be celebrated as some like princess or something, but she's actually locked up in this tower. It's kind of like a house, but being watched on by all these scientists. And she wants to get out. She knows she's in prison and she hates it. And you have to come in, of course, to give her back to your mysterious like bosses or whoever you owe money to. But when you do, you start to develop more of an emotional relationship with her. And I did too. You really start to feel attached to the character through the events that play out throughout the story. She gets mad at you. She gets annoyed. You save each other's lives. And you really feel like she's really the only person in the city that you can trust, and you really have to trust each other because she wants to go to Paris. That's like her huge goal. She's obsessed with it. She's been locked up in that tower for her entire life, ever since she was a young girl. So she's always wanted to go to Paris, but you need to take her to New York to save your butt. And although I haven't gotten to a decision-making like part of the game, where I don't know if it's made for you or you make the choice. It's probably made for you, but I think that it's really going to play out your relationship in where you go, whether to Paris or New York. And she's actually really important to the combat too, because she'll toss you like medkits and ammunition and stuff. So she's really important. She's not like a damsel in distress where you're trying to protect her and stuff. And if she dies, like the mission's over and you got to restart and stuff. No, she can really hold her own. And she kind of, although she is kind of off to either the right or left or like behind you, she's not fighting with you or anything like that. She's not like holding like a rifle or anything. It feels like she's important in combat, and she's not just someone you're like just lugging around to get money. But the combat, and we're getting into about the section where the game starts to pick up. As you can see, you're kind of understanding like the whole world itself, and you're establishing the tone. You're setting the tone. But the combat in Bioshock Infinite is also very, very interesting. So it's kind of two games. It's two combat systems, if you will. So the first, part of the combat system is normal weapons, and this is 1912, so you're going to get a lot of carbines and very large, like, machine guns and pistols and stuff. The weapons feel very believable, although sometimes there are some science fiction-y part of the weapon that you wouldn't really probably see in real life. The weapons themselves fit to that time period. You're not going to be using some, like M16 or something in this game. The weapons feel very believable, and it's actually a lot of fun using the weapons. I don't know, just you have a lot of power behind them. You can really, when you shoot someone, it's not like in a first-person shooter where, like Call of Duty or something, where you shoot someone, they don't react or they keep running. If you shoot even an enemy once, they'll kind of limp back and recoil, and they'll still kind of start to fight, but they'll limp and stuff, and then you can come in, of course, for the finishing blow. But that's really cool, and how the weapons feel very believable, in that, you don't just fire like 500 shots into someone before they start to take notice of it. Um, the AI is also quite good in the enemies. They'll actually use the skyline too, which is cool. They'll come in like either reinforcements or just coming to find you. But the gunplay is quite cool. There's not a ton of guns. Don't come into the thinking it's some tactical shooter where you've got like 500 weapons with attachments. There's no attachments or anything like that. And ammo is pretty sparse. Of course, you do loot a lot of stuff from enemies. There's a lot of places where you have to like get more ammo and stuff. We'll talk about that in a second. In terms of money, they're called like silver eagles, and probably like reacting to like the silver dollar of American times. But pretty much that's how you really buy a lot of stuff. You can buy ammunition, like I said, health kits, upgrades to your weapons, and all the the weapon upgrades are very normal, like an expanded clip, increased damage, reduced recoil, stuff like that. But the guns do feel a lot more powerful as you go, and you feel like you always need to keep upgrading your weapons. You can only carry two at a time. Most of the time, you're probably gonna be. I've been carrying the carbine a lot, but in this area, you're gonna see the pistol, and that's pretty much it. Although there could be a machine gun part, I cut it out because it was just running way too far. But right here, you had to make a choice, so you got this baseball through this raffle, but instead of like winning like a prize, you were expected to throw it at an Irishman and an African American. You decided to throw it at the announcer guy, but then they figured out that you were the false shepherd now, and now everybody is fearful of you. And then this is where the real fun begins, because that's the grappling hook, which you use to melee people. And just to let you know, there's a ton of blood in this game, which is actually pretty cool how it reacts to your environment and stuff. It's definitely a not your normal like Connectimals or anything. This is a mature game, and it really shows in the combat and such. But anyway, so you're just like slinging at enemies, and you can actually, once they're low health, you can hold the right stick, and then it'll actually go into a execution, which is pretty cool. And you can loot enemies for like health, and the health is actually really believable too, because unlike some normal like health, where it's just like in Skyrim it's like health or food. In this, it's like a bunch of different things, and like candy bars, coffee, wine. You can drink like alcohol, which will have some like some benefits, but then there'll also be some negatives with drinking it too, which is also pretty cool. But one of the main things to Bioshock's Infinite's identity is the vigors, and vigors are like power-ups, and they're anything from bringing over an enemy to fight on your team to throwing like a fireball at them and having it explode. And I think that's really cool, having all those vigors. Although I haven't really used them a lot, they really do tie into combat, and the salts are really what powers them. You don't get like unlimited usage, and they don't power. So you always have to be looting dead bodies and such. But there's no multiplayer in Bioshock Infinite, which I don't think is that big of a deal, because the single player could easily stand on its own. There's collectibles and stuff, and you can really just spend a lot of time just getting lost in the world and checking out just all of the culture and just everything that 2K and their team have crafted. So Bioshock Infinite, just as a wrap up, is easily my favorite game of the year so far. Tomb Raider and Bioshock Infinite were really, really good games, and I just cannot wait to see what 2013 brings. I'm probably going to get the season pass, so expect quite a bit more follow-up coverage, because I love this game. I came into it not expecting, like, I didn't know what to expect, and now, of course, I know that this is a really good both first-person shooter and just story, like, RPG type system in general, like the looting system and stuff. So pretty much the story is the main focus, but I think that they didn't hold back on the first person shooter elements. And right here you're picking up a vigor, and you do this all across in the campaign. You can carry 2 vigors at once, as well as 2 weapons. And whenever you pick up a new one, something like happens to your hands, like right here, your hands like burn and stuff. And it's pretty cool. Like the controller like vibrates, and then just suddenly stops. So it's like your hands still feel like kinetic energy, built up, which is really cool. It brought me to the experience a little bit more. And then it shows this this tutorial video. But I think if you're a first-person shooter fan, or anyone who just loves story games in general, and is not afraid to to pick up a weapon and get used to the first-person shooter controls, I think that Bioshock Infinite is a really good game in that regard. I'm definitely gonna be thinking about it when I'm designing my top 5 games for 2013. But that's pretty much the end of this episode. If you guys like this video, please thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out.